Hi, Zachariah. How did your time of service at the temple go? Elizabeth told me you were chosen by lot to burn incense in the temple of the Lord.
Oh, really? Wow, that's amazing. What an honour. How did it go, Zachariah?
Oh, I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, Zachariah. You need to click the little microphone button.
Oh, wait. It's not showing he's on mute. Is your microphone working? I don't think his microphone's working.
Why don't you try typing in the chat?
You've lost your voice. Oh dear.
Too much incense, maybe.
We can't hear you, Zachariah. Type it in the chat. You saw an angle. What does that mean?
Well, I'm pretty good at soaring angles.
You saw an angel. He told you Elizabeth was going to have a sin. What kind of sin? That doesn't sound like Elizabeth. She's such a good person. Oh, a son. Wait, are you saying you and Elizabeth are going to have a baby? Oh, Zachariah, that's amazing. Congratulations. I knew God would give you a child. I've been praying so hard for you. Isn't that amazing, Joseph?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's incredible. But, well, I mean, are you sure?
Joseph?
Well, no, I mean, well, you and Elizabeth are both pretty old.
Joseph?
Well, hey, I didn't mean it like that. Well, let's see. I'm not being rude. It's pretty hard to believe.
But the Lord promised. The Lord sent his angel to Zechariah especially to tell him this wonderful news. Of course it's true. How can you doubt it? There you go. See? You should trust the Lord.
Okay, you're right. Congratulations, Zechariah. I'm really pleased for you. I can't wait to meet little baby Zechariah. John? Who's John? He's your firstborn son, Zechariah. He's got to have his father's name. It's tradition.
Joseph?
Well, you know what people are like, Mary. If they call him John, everyone will be like, who's John? The milkman?
Joseph, the angel said they were to call him John, if that's what the Lord wants.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. John's a great name. I just hope I don't get any angels telling me what to call my kids, that's all. Because I want my firstborn son to be called Joseph Jr.
Well, I don't think the angel of the Lord is going to be appearing to us, Joseph.
He doesn't need to. I've been blessed enough already. We've got some good news of our own, Zechariah. Do you want to tell him, Mary?
Okay. So, Joseph and I got engaged!
Okay. Oh.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll speak to you soon, Zachariah. Maybe I'll come and visit in a few months, if I can. Give my love to Elizabeth. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.
We're lost. It's cold and it's dark and we're lost. I don't know what we were thinking. We're supposed to be wise men. But I think we just got a bit overexcited and carried away. Because we saw something. Something quite remarkable. We were staring up at the skies one night, as we do every night, and we saw a star. Okay, now I say it out loud, it doesn't sound all that remarkable. But this wasn't just any star. It was a new star. It hadn't been there before. And it was far brighter than any other. And I knew it was a sign that something truly remarkable had happened. Something that would change the world forever. The birth of a king. The greatest king who will ever live. The one the Jews call Messiah, the Son of God. And I had to go and see him for myself. So I and an unspecified number of others decided to follow the star. Follow the star. Yes, great idea. Of course that did mean travelling at night, but that's fine. A group of strangers in a strange land wearing fine clothes and carrying expensive gifts, wandering aimlessly through the hills where there are thieves and wild animals and shepherds. What could possibly go wrong? And now we're lost. We've been travelling for I don't know how long. I've lost track. Feels like forever. We've got as far as Judea. We're close. But now the star has disappeared. So we're lost. The latest plan is to try to find Jerusalem. That's where the Jewish temple is. One of the other chaps reckons someone there is bound to know where we can find this Messiah. Perhaps it's written in their scriptures or something. Honestly, the humiliation of it. Can you imagine? What are we going to say? Excuse me, where's the one who's been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and we've come to worship him. We're going to look like idiots. We should have brought a map. Oh well, I'm going to bed now. As there's no star to follow, it'll be easier to find Jerusalem during the day when it's light. Good night.
It all happened so fast. I never really thought about what I wanted. I didn't really have any plans. I guess I just trusted God. I figured I'd probably get married one day and have kids. Ugh, I love kids. But then Joseph asked me to marry him and I was so excited. Blessed. Oh, he's a good man. So good at his carpentry. I mean, the beautiful things he makes me. And he's quite cute too. And then Elizabeth told me she was pregnant. It was like all my prayers were being answered. Oh, everything was just so perfect to me.
She seemed perfect to me, Mary. The most beautiful girl I'd ever met. So kind, so smart, so amazing. I was so nervous when I asked her to marry me. Oh, but the smile on her face when she said yes, I felt like my heart was about to explode. Oh. Everything seemed to fall into place. My carpentry business was going well. Well, we'd never live like kings, but we'd have enough to raise our family. And then Zechariah told us that he'd been visited by an angel who told him that Elizabeth would have a baby. After all these years. Well, Mary was over the moon. But it just seemed too good to be true.
And then the angel of the Lord came to me and told me I'd been highly favoured. I didn't understand. Why would an angel come and visit me? I mean, Zachariah's a priest. He and Elizabeth are two of the most holiest people I know. Nobody deserves God's blessing as much as them. But I didn't understand why the Lord would be interested in me. I felt so unworthy. But he told me not to be afraid. And he told me I was going to have a baby.
She said we were going to have a baby. A baby! We weren't even married. We hadn't even... How could that be?
I asked him, how could that be? I'm still a virgin. But the angel said I would be filled with the Holy Spirit and that my baby would be called the Son of God. And I was to name him Jesus. But I couldn't understand why God chose me. I was scared. But I know God is good. And I was excited too. If it was what God wanted, I prayed that everything would happen just as the angel had said. I love God with all my heart.
I loved her with all my heart. How could she do this to me? I'm not an idiot. I know how babies are made. All this talk of angels. First Zechariah, now Mary. Yeah, I've heard stories about angels from the scriptures, but they're just stories. That was a long time ago. How could I believe her?
He didn't believe me. Joseph didn't believe me. I felt sick. I know God is with me, but this world can be so cruel. I've seen how our society treats unmarried women who have babies. What would happen to me and the baby if Joseph broke off the engagement?
I had to break off the engagement. What choice did I have? I don't know much about the scriptures, not like Mary does. I'm not smart like she is. But I do know the law, and I've always tried to do the right thing. So I had to break it off. I had to. But I didn't want her to be publicly disgraced. In spite of everything, I still loved her. I thought maybe we could do it quietly. Somehow. I don't know. I needed to think about it. I needed to sleep on it. I prayed last night. I don't pray often, but that night I prayed.
I prayed that night, like I do every night. But this night I prayed even harder. I didn't want to lose Joseph. I loved him. And I didn't know how I could face the future, how I could raise my son without him. But I trusted God. I knew Joseph was a good man, and he was only trying to do the right thing. I remembered what the angel said. Don't be afraid, Mary. And as I fell asleep, I dreamt about the angel.
That night, I dreamt an angel came to me. And they told me not to be afraid to take Mary as my wife, because her baby was from God. And I was to name him Jesus, because he would save his people from their sins. It was just as Mary had said. I felt so ashamed. I should never have doubted her. The next morning, I went straight over to see her. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I had to make things right.
He didn't have to say anything. When I saw him standing at my door, I knew everything was going to be all right. We held each other. We both cried. It was like the angel's wings were folded around us both, protecting us.
And she just whispered in my ear, "There's no need to be afraid. God is with us."
And he just placed his hand on my tummy where the baby was growing and said, "Yes, God is with us."
Breaking news. We've just heard that Emperor Caesar Augustus has issued a decree that a census should be taken across the entire Roman Empire. We can now cross over to the regional governor, who is about to give a briefing.
Hello.
So, as you may have heard, the great Emperor Caesar Augustus, son of the divine, if I may say, deified Julius Caesar, the rightful ruler of this region and of the entire empire, the biggest and greatest empire of all time, has issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman Empire. And so I'm here today to ask you to go home, get counted, pay tax. We're asking every man to go home to the town of their ancestors, to register there and be counted, and then to pay whatever amount of tax the collectors in that area arbitrarily decide to demand from you. So my message today is simple. Go home, get counted, pay tax. And now I think I'm going to be taking some questions. So the first is from Rachel from 1BC News. Rachel.
Yes, so you said that every man is to go to the town of their ancestors to be counted. What about women?
Thank you, Rachel. So men should go back to the town of their ancestors to be registered. Women should accompany their husbands, or if they're not married, their fathers, and go to be registered with them.
That's a bit sexist, isn't it?
Well, we live in unenlightened times. Thank you for your question, Rachel. And our next question is from a member of the public, Mary from Nazareth. Mary.
Yes, I'm engaged to be married to Joseph, and we both live in Nazareth. But Joseph is a descendant of David from the town of Bethlehem, so he will have to go back there to register. What should I do?
Thank you for your question, Mary. And may I start by saying congratulations on your engagement. So, in this situation, you and your fiancé can form a bubble, and you should travel with your fiancé back to Bethlehem, where he should register.
But Bethlehem's such a long way, and
I'm afraid we've run out of time there. Thank you for your question, Mary. So the important thing for everyone to remember is to go home, get counted, pay tax. Thank you.
O come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. O come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. Praise the Lord. God of God, light of light, though he abhors not the virgin's womb, adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord.
Well, that was all very odd. We found our way to Jerusalem in the end, and we asked around, but people there didn't seem particularly pleased when we told them that their king, the one they called Messiah, had been born. A lot of people just said, Herod is our king, and if the Messiah had been born, we would have known about it. Well, perhaps if they'd learned to look up at the stars instead of down at their dusty old scriptures, then they would have known. We were about to give up, since people were being so unhelpful. But then we got summoned to a secret meeting with Herod himself. And he seemed very interested. Wanted to know exactly when the star had appeared. He told us that their scriptures said the Messiah would be born in the town of Bethlehem. If he's right, perhaps those dusty old scriptures are good for something after all. Herod asked us to search carefully for the child and to report back to him as soon as we found him, so that he too could go and worship him. Which surprised me somehow. I mean, I'd have expected the priests at the temple to have wanted to go and worship the Messiah, but they didn't seem bothered at all. But Herod seems to regard himself as something of a king of the Jews himself. So I would have expected him to be a bit more wary of a potential rival to the throne. It's all a bit strange. So, anyway, now we're heading back towards Bethlehem. Although, I don't know how we're going to find the right baby when we get there. This would have been a lot easier if... Wait a minute. There it is. The star. It's there, the star. Look, chaps, it's a star. Come on, let's follow it. Gloria. Hosanna in excelsis. Gloria. Hosanna in excelsis. Oh, that reminds me. Call Gloria. Gloria.
All right, that's my name. No need to make that racket.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. I was just singing praises to the Lord God in heaven.
Oh, that's what that was. Why?
I have seen the most amazing thing.
What's that?
It was a baby.
A baby. Amazing. I've never seen one of those before.
Oh, yeah, no, not like this one. This was a very special baby.
A special baby.
Yeah, like a king or something.
Like a king. A prince, maybe? We already have a king, Herod. Remember him?
Oh, yeah, no, this was another one.
Another king? Naturally. When a king is born, first thing they do is summon some random shepherd to go up to the palace to visit him.
Oh, yeah, no, he wasn't at the palace. He was just at the inn up the road.
Oh, of course. You're just about to give birth to the king. Why stay in the luxury of a palace? when you can have a nice room in the inn up the road for a couple of nights.
Oh, yeah, no, they didn't have a room. He was just sort of in with the animals, lying in a manger.
In a manger? Well, that is special. Are you sure he was a king?
Oh, not just a king. He said he was the Messiah, the Christ.
What does that mean?
No idea. I didn't like to ask. Besides, then all his mates turned up and started singing. Oh, it was so beautiful. Gloria.
Don't start that again. Whose mates? Who was singing?
The angel.
The angel. Have you been drinking?
No. Well, maybe just a bit. I might have had one earlier, you know, keep off the chill while I was sat up on the hills watching the sheep. Oh, and then I had another one to celebrate this most wonderful occasion, the birth of the Christ, the Christ Mass.
The Christ Mass.
Yeah, henceforth, this day shall be known as the Christ Mass.
And I suppose the people will celebrate by drinking, singing, and generally making merry.
That's a good idea, it might catch on.
I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. Goodbye.
No, wait. She hung up.
We're lost. Again. Good news is we found the child. After our meeting with Herod, the star appeared again and led us straight to Bethlehem. Before we even got into town, we bumped into some shepherds on the hills who told us that they'd seen an angel on the night the star first appeared. The angel told them that the Messiah had been born that day and that they would find him wrapped in cloth and lying in a manger. They took us to where they'd seen the baby. What an odd sight that must have been. Shepherds and wise men gathered round a manger. Can you imagine? It was empty, of course. The child was long gone. But we made some inquiries and we managed to find the house where the baby was. We were invited in, and then we saw him. The child. Just an ordinary child. I don't know what we were expecting, but it was not like any king I've ever seen. And yet, his star shone brighter than any other in the sky. And we were welcomed into his home. Strange men from a faraway land who turned up, uninvited, with nothing to say. We couldn't even speak their language. I started to feel a little bit silly. Was this what we'd come all that way for? I felt so out of place. But we were welcomed. We were offered food. They had so little, but what little they had, they shared with us. It was only then that we remembered we had not come empty-handed. We'd brought gifts. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gifts fit for a king. We'd thought long and hard about those gifts, you know. Well, what gifts do you give to a king? But this wasn't exactly a palace. And those gifts felt a little out of place. Was this child truly the King of the Jews? And what was that to us? We're not Jews. This child was not our king. And yet, we worshipped him. There was just something about him. At first, I thought the gifts we'd bought were a bit too much. But in that moment, as we worshipped the child, I suddenly felt like they were nowhere near enough. I've always looked to the heavens for guidance. I'm not sure I knew what I was looking for, but somehow, in that moment, I knew I'd found it. And my life would never be the same again. And then, of course, we had to leave and make our way home. Now, the easiest thing, of course, would have been to retrace our steps. But one of the chaps had a dream warning us not to go back to Herod. I must admit, I had my doubts about him. Also, turns out he's a Leo, and you know what they're like. So we decided to go home by a different route. It should have been a simple case of following the stars, but the skies have clouded over tonight, and that doesn't bode well. I sense a storm coming. Herod's jealousy of this new king will overshadow the land and bring weeping and great mourning. As for us, I know we'll find our way home. While we may have followed the stars to get here, it was the God of the Jews who guided our path, and I trust the same God to guide us home.
It's funny. You make plans, but things don't always work out the way you think they're going to. I just got my head around the fact that we were going to have a baby. I was trying to make a home for us all. For the family.
He made this beautiful wooden cot, so intricately carved, and lots of wooden toys, like this big Noah's Ark, full of lots of little wooden animals. Oh, so cute. He's worked so hard for me and the baby. And then they announced this census, and it turns out we have to travel to Bethlehem.
I mean, I didn't think Mary should be travelling, in her condition. But what choice did we have? The journey was hard, but Mary never complained.
As we set off, I was reminded of what the prophet Micah wrote. But you, Bethlehem, in the lands of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. And I just knew this was all part of God's plan. God was with us.
By the time we got to Bethlehem, the baby was just about due. I knew we had to find somewhere to stay, but everywhere was full. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was letting Mary down. Again. But Mary was so calm and serene.
Joseph's such a warrior, but I knew God would provide for us. I held his hand and said a prayer. I thank God for Joseph.
I don't know why she thanked God for me. I just felt so useless. But that's typical Mary.
And I thank God for the child I was carrying, and I asked that God would find us shelter for the night.
I had one last place to try. I knocked on the door and spoke to the owner. They had no room, but he was a kind man and he took pity on us. He said we could stay with the animals. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. And his wife did everything she could to make us comfortable. I said to Mary that I was sorry I couldn't provide her with everything I wanted to, but she just smiled and said it was perfect.
It was perfect. We had everything we needed. We had each other, and God was with us. And that night, the baby came.
A beautiful baby boy.
And we named him Jesus.
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Mary's womb. Veiled in flesh, the guarded sea, hailed the incarnate deity, pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of